everyone. My name is Rufus Thibodeaux, and welcome to another episode of Promise and Purpose, where we talk about the transformative power of God's Word and how that links to us discovering our purpose and unlocking our untapped potential. And today I'm here with Al Johnson, and we're going to continue talking about how aligning yourself with the promises of God leads to a deeper understanding of your purpose and the potential that lies on the inside of you. So, Al, finally we get together. I know that we have been trying to do this a few times, but here we are.
Here
And
we are.
how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Rufus?
I'm good. Now I'm going to let the cat out of the bag a little bit because people won't know this by looking at you. Obviously I have more gray hair than you, but Al is, even though he looks like he's maybe 55 or 60 years old, Al is 80 years old. I happen to know that. That's why I'm learning at
Actually,
the back.
80, actually 81.
81. Now you have to push it now. 81. Um and um and yeah, but there's so much about Al. Now I know so Al is now I'm gonna get the degrees wrong probably, but 19th degree black belt.
No, I looked at that and I'm going, 19th
Oh,
degree.
okay, sorry.
How
I
do you
know it's
get to be
multiple degrees. It's multiple
yeah,
degrees, right? How many?
it's fifth degree.
Oh, fifth. Okay, that's still a lot, right? So
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a
so
lot.
50th degree black belt, you're an entrepreneur, you're a poet, songwriter, I mean all of this stuff. And so let's just get into it. I mean I'm kind of spoiling all the, taking, I don't want to take any more fire from your talk. So why don't you just start by just introducing yourself formally, and then share a little bit about your background and some of the work that you do.
Well, as Rudy said, I'm that age, 81, and I'm proud to be that age, actually. And
Nice. Yes.
God has blessed me, and to be in the shape that I'm in now, physically and mentally. So that I spent over 3 decades actually teaching special education, and mainly in high school, and that was a tremendous experience for me, because I had no aspirations to do that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Or so how some kids will say, even at age 9 or 10, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, I want to be
Sure.
what. I had no clue. What I wanted to do was play professional baseball,
Oh,
and,
okay.
I was very good at it and got up to a high level, but didn't quite make the majors.
Okay.
So it wasn't until later in life that my purpose happened, and it hit me that actually, when someone told me at the age of, I don't know, I don't mind telling your audience,
Yeah.
um, I went to junior college
Yeah.
to actually play baseball and
Okay.
study business because I was working for a bank at that particular time at their data processing center.
Okay.
And so I said, well, if I'm going to go to school, I'm going to study business,
Hmm.
and which I started off doing, but I wasn't ready for school, as so
Okay.
many people are not.
Sure.
And I think I lasted about 3 or 4 semesters and flunked out.
Okay.
And I said, I don't need school. I was about 22 years old, something like that. I don't need this. I'm just I'm gonna play baseball and play baseball. And it really wasn't until someone told me later, it happened to be a lady I was going with at the time. I was about 24, 25, and she had kids, and I would always interact with her kids, and I'd exercise with the kids. I wasn't anywhere close to being a martial artist at that time,
Yeah.
but I would jog and run around the block. And one day she came to me and she said, "You know what? You need to be a teacher."
Hmm.
I said, "What? A teacher?" She says, "Yeah, you need to be a teacher because you have a gift with children."
Hmm.
And I said, "That means I would have to go back to school." Said, "Go back." And so that's where the journey started as far as the education is concerned.
Yeah.
I went back to school, and when I got a degree in business,
Okay.
and then so I figured I'm going to teach typing and business machines and business math and all that good stuff. And the first job that I interviewed on with the first job, I sat down with the principal. It was at a school, Opportunity High School, they
Hmm.
continuation high school, they call them different names.
Yeah.
In
Sure.
other words, kids who have pretty much not made it, and for disciplinary actions, they've been put in and kicked out of regular school, and sent to this special school.
Right.
Right. And so I sat down with the principal, and after my interview, he thanked me for the interview. He told me what kind of, it was. This school, Rudy, wasn't even co-ed.
Hmm.
It had 98 girls in the morning, 98 boys in the afternoon.
Wow.
They were bussed in.
Okay.
And every single one of those kids had been bumped out of other schools for disciplinary reasons.
Okay.
I took the interview and went home. Hour and a half later or so, the principal calls me. He says, "You know what? I interview a lot of people and a lot of potential teachers." He says, "There's only 13 teachers on this staff.
Hmm.
We have opening for one in special education." He says, "You can handle this type of student." I'm going, "Okay." He says, "If you want the job, you got the job."
Nice.
So as soon as I got that job, I instantly changed my major from business to
Okay.
special ed.
Okay.
And I changed to special ed, and I says, "I'm going to go and get my master's degree in special ed," which I did.
Okay.
And,
Nice.
and so I started teaching school and teaching high school, and really enjoying it a great deal, and working with kids who are special to the sense. I mean, people, when they hear special education,
The thing negative.
they automatically say this kid is can't learn,
Right.
or they're this, but it's all negative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But there are a lot of areas of special education, and some of the areas of special ed, they're gifted as special ed.
Yeah.
And so even autistic, I've worked with autistic kids, and you have high functioning autistic kids. I'm working with one now.
Yeah.
So, and then even the ones who don't like to study and their behavior's bad, um, they still can learn. So that's my journey up to that point. So
Sure.
I'm doing all the talking, and the host
No,
is talking.
no, that's great. Well, we'll get into all the other stuff. I know you got a bunch of stuff in your background, but let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about how have you personally dealt with feelings of like unfulfillment and maybe disconnection from your potential, and then what did you do to overcome those kind of challenges?
Well, Rudy, having been raised in, it was a little difficult because having been raised in a overtly and mandated segregated environment as a
Mm.
child and as a teen
Yeah.
and a young man, you start developing those feelings of you can't accomplish this, and you lose faith in that, and
Yeah.
what's wrong with me,
Sure.
and so forth and so on. So it took a while to really find potential
Okay.
and say, okay, this, and then believe in it.
Yeah. Sure.
You find it and you go, okay, do I really believe I can do this?
Yeah.
Do I really, am I going to be restricted because I am black, because
Yeah.
I am green, or whatever it happens to
Yeah.
be?
Sure.
And
Sure.
so it took a while to overcome it, but once you overcome it, then you have a drive. Now, one of the biggest problems is uh, if it happens at a later age, which it did with me,
Yeah.
because when I finished school at master's degree at about age 29, and then when I first entered the martial arts, I guess you want to talk about it, you call me a 19th degree.
All right. I didn't know. I knew it
That's
was multiple degrees. I do.
but they only go up to about 10th. So, but
That's funny. Okay. So five, fifth. That's still fantastic, right?
well, that's a master. It takes
Yeah.
about 15 years to do that.
Okay.
So
All right.
anyway, I really realized that uh, even at an older age, that I could accomplish things that younger people could accomplish.
Yeah.
But God had put me in a position where I think he was saying to me, "You're not ready at 19.
Hmm.
You're not ready at 20. Or 25. Now is your time
Yeah.
at 30. So
Yeah.
now you're at 30, but I have." I have preserved you. I've blessed you. You're still in good health. You've done so. So go out there and do whatever you want to do, and do it well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And there's some other things I know that you accomplished later in life. We'll get into some of those things in a second, but I want to talk about um, some biblical principles. I want to know if you can share a specific instance where you maybe struggled to apply a biblical principle in your daily life, and then what did you have to do to ultimately overcome that kind of challenge?
Well, when I was raised in a very my aunt and uncle raised me, and we were in church every Sunday,
Okay.
and sometimes I felt it was all day, you know,
Sure.
as a kid, and
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
you know, what
It was all day. Yeah.
it
Right.
was
Right.
all day, and what I was learning as a child in church and believing and praying and reading the Bible and everything, uh, I had conflicts with some of it not taking place as I was growing older. And
Mm,
okay, this is not. How come I'm praying
yeah.
and it hasn't happened yet?
Yeah.
What is there really a God? Is there really
Yeah.
a it took a while for me to say, you know what, and it not only took a while, but it took being around people that were saved and
Yeah.
people that knew the word more and how it
Yeah.
worked.
Sure.
And you have to, and I'm still learning.
Of course. Yeah.
I learned a lot from my wife Leslie, you
Yes.
know, because she can quote the Bible a lot better than I can, and I read it
Yeah.
almost every day. You
But you
know,
know what, Al, wives, man, it seems that to me, a lot of times the voice of God sounds amazingly like my wife's very often. So, wives, I mean, yeah, what would we do without our wives? Now, speaking of which, I know that, well, actually, I'm not gonna get into that yet. All right. So you mentioned a few things about surrounding yourself with the right kind of people.
right?
And that sort of leads me to the idea of community. And I wanted to know what role has community played in your your spiritual journey, and also just your journey into the other kinds of aspects of your life, your martial arts training? I mean, also the company that you founded, Bullies Be Gone. I mean, what how does community affect all of that? What role does it play for you?
Community played a major role because, as I mentioned before, my initial community was a segregated community.
Mm,
It
okay.
was a community where that was all black,
Okay.
mandatedly black, right? And
Yeah.
schools and in Kansas City, Missouri, schools and public places and movie theaters and the
Yeah.
whole process. So the community wasn't a very positive one.
Okay.
You know, it was a negative community, which led me first to the area of feeling insignificant myself
Okay.
until I got into a community that was 180 degrees.
Okay.
So when I got around a community, excuse me, a community that was 180 degrees of that,
Yeah.
I started thinking differently.
Sure.
And then as you progress, you start thinking different and go, wait a minute. Even though this skin is dark,
Yeah.
I'm not bad upstairs. I'm pretty good, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
all I got to do is learn how to apply this.
Right.
And it's the same, and it's the same with the. I think God put me here. He gives us all a purpose,
Yeah.
and well, all we have to do is fulfill that purpose, and
Yeah.
many of us don't. You know,
Yes.
maybe we never even find it.
That's right. That's right.
So we
Well,
don't
how
know
how
what
did
to
you
do.
discover your purpose? How did you find your sense of purpose?
I think I found my sense of purpose. Let's say with the martial arts and with the Bullies Be Gone project
Yeah,
and with teaching. My sense of purpose. Sometimes people see in you what you don't see in yourself,
that's right.
and they're speaking to you through God. It's
Right,
something I
sure.
had to learn.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I had to learn and understand and believe that. Because the ministers would always say, I heard God was speaking to me yesterday,
right,
and I'm going, okay. And
right,
he said, "You're here, God speak to you," and I'm listening,
right.
but I'm expecting what I see in the movies or something,
That's
a
right.
cloud to come down and
Yeah,
there's God right there speaking. But I had to learn He speaks to you in various different ways
that's
through
right.
other people and other incidents
That's
and
right. Sure.
other things that happen. So that's Him talking.
Right.
So when I learned that, I started having more faith in what I tried to do. Now, the martial arts was something, again, that was never really most people start the martial arts as a little kid.
Okay.
You know, they go in as a kid and they train, and 90 the stats are, Rudy, that uh, only about 5% of anyone, children all the way through adulthood, who ever enter a
Yeah.
martial arts studio to train, only about 5% will ever become first degree black belt.
Wow.
And that takes about 4 years, right,
Man.
of
Okay.
continuous training. Only about 5%.
Yeah.
Now, to get to the level where I am, it's less than 1%. Now, I'm not bragging.
No, no, that's crazy. But that speaks to mastery, that speaks to discipline, right?
Yes,
I mean, so yeah, that's great. And that's why I wanted to bring that out because now how long have you been in the martial arts? I mean, it's been
I've been about a half a century.
have you been that long? Okay,
And
okay.
I,
Yeah.
let me tell you, that's about like 19th degree black belt that you came up with.
You
No,
gotta let me live that down, huh? Okay.
actually, actually, I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
I started at age 30,
Yeah.
and it's been continuous even
Okay.
now. I was telling my wife, I says, you know what, I want to go to the Grand Master. There's always someone knows more than you do
Oh, of course. Yeah, right, right.
in any discipline. And I says, I want to go to Grand Master again and study some more advanced weapon techniques,
Yeah.
because you got so many people, unfortunately, are attacking each other with weapons and knives
Sure.
and guns. So that's my plan, and to go ahead and do that. I give them a call and says, can we set up some scheduling,
Yeah.
and we'll do that. So, but at 30, the first time that I walked into a studio and to observe, and it took me about six months or so to even walk in. I passed by it every day,
Okay.
going to the high school where I taught. And said, one day I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna go inside and I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch me a class. Well, 6 months later, one day I'm gonna go by and I'm
Sure.
going. You know, Finally I go in and I sat down. I sat down and there were classes full of about, I don't know, 15 or 20 people. It was hot outside.
Okay.
Instructor had the windows closed, and he had them going back and forth and back and
Hmm.
forth and up and down. They were about half my age, and he was it was just continuous. I'm going, you got to be kidding.
Yeah.
I said, I'm 30 years old. You have
Yeah.
got to be kidding. I can't do this. So this is interesting how God works, I believe,
Yeah.
because I got up to walk out
Hmm.
because I had already decided in my mind that was too difficult for me.
Okay.
Okay. And let's say if the instructor didn't do what he did, my life, I might not have ever gotten to this level in the
Yeah.
market. I got up to walk out, and the instructor pats me on the shoulder and says, "Can I help you?"
Hmm.
And I turned around and I looked at him and I said, uh, I thought I might want to do this, but I'm too old. And
Wow.
he looked me in the eyes and he said, this is his exact words. I remember from 50 years ago. He said, if you're too old to do to you think you're too old to do this, what do you think you're going to be thinking when there are other challenges later on in your life? You're always going to be too old for something in your mind.
Wow.
And
That's
I'm going,
incredible.
wow, okay. Next day I signed up.
Nice. So here's the thing about you, Al, that's so inspiring is that so there's a lot of people who think that they're too old.
Yeah,
There's some excuse, but a lot of it is too old. I mean, I am this is in fact in a Bible study I'm leading. We're talking about the life of Joseph, and Joseph, he was in prison when he was 17 years old. He went through a bunch of other stuff. Was 17 years old and didn't really come to the point of him being able to fulfill his purpose until he was 30. Now, 30 years old in that time, that was considered midlife crisis. I mean, he had,
right, right,
no
right,
assets, no people. And so you
right.
mentioned that you started at 30, and that's all, and it's relative, but but people think that it's too late. They think that I haven't accomplished what I thought I was going to accomplish, and it's over for me. I mean,
Mhm.
and you look, and a lot of that is because you're comparing your life to other people's lives, and everybody's on a different time scale, and there's things that you have gone through and that we go through that's preparing you for your purpose. But if it's not time, then it's not going to, you know, it's not going to work. And we got to wait for the right timing. I mean, so anyway, yes. So you did that when you're 30. You're an entrepreneur. I know that also. You got married. You got married when you were for the first time when you were what, 75? Eight.
I was 76, I think, when I first 75 when I
Oh, that is crazy, man. That was
somewhere in my
great.
mid 70s.
I
We didn't
mean, you're such a
get
huge
before.
encouragement because well, I mean, man, you still do your training, right? I mean, you still do
Yes,
your
yeah.
that's pretty unbelievable. Are people surprised by that when you talk to them about the stuff that you're doing and I mean,
Well, they're surprised to a great extent. It's even like the Bullies Be Gone
yeah,
program.
yeah,
Uh, uh, when I got again, just like teaching, I never had any idea that I would be doing that. God was speaking. What was happening is that I had my own karate studio in one of
mm,
the beach cities,
okay,
and I ran it for about 13 years. But I was also teaching the martial arts for surrounding 2 or 3 cities, other surrounds this beach city, and I was teaching through their parks and recreation department, teaching
yeah,
the martial arts. Well, in this one city, there was a child molestation
mm,
uproar in a daycare center. Now, these
okay,
people were found to be not guilty,
yeah,
but the city was still in an uproar.
sure,
And one day, surprisingly enough to me, Rudy, the powers that be came to me and said, could you start? This was 1985.
yeah,
Could you start a program, Al, that's not a full blown karate program, but one that teaches safety, kids, safety, awareness, self confidence, and anti bullying and things like that? I'm going, whoa. Why? First of all, why are they asking me?
yeah,
And I'm going, give me a few days to think about it. This is fine.
yeah,
I third day I came back and told them yes, and I had no idea what I was going to teach. But I said yes.
yeah,
That's where the program started, and that's where it built from. And that was God speaking again
yeah,
through someone else to
sure,
say, go ask this young, because you made a point that I think is very important, is that
the
uh,
timing.
the timing of God, it's God's timing. It's not our timing.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And the thing about it is that you like going back to Joseph, Joseph's brothers who sold him into slavery. He ended up in some administrative positions during that period of time in the jail as a slave. But all of those things prepared him for when he got called up by Pharaoh, because at that point now he had his skills to interpret dreams was there. He could speak the language, the Egyptian language, and all the things that seemed like were obstacles were really training him and preparing him for his purpose. And so,
Mhm,
like you were just
mhm.
saying, I mean, you were getting ready to walk out of the karate studio and I mean, because you felt like you were too old, and here you are, you start your own studio, and from that led to you getting tapped to start the Bullies Be Gone program. Now, how long have you been doing that now?
Bullies Be Gone program since 1985, and it started off as the Young Alert and Aware program. That was
Okay,
for ages 5 through 15,
yeah,
and I would teach once they found out about the program. I would teach, oh, I don't know, a Girl Scout organization, Boy Scout organization. I was
yeah,
teaching groups of kids and I was doing it all myself.
yeah,
Well, the more I taught it, the more I learned, of
gotcha.
course, and I started putting things together. And so then I said, you know what? I need to put my whole educational background
Mm,
together with this, put the segregation aspect of it together with this when I was a child growing up,
sure,
and all the things I've learned in life,
yeah,
and then what I learned from my aunt and uncle and church when I was growing up
yeah,
is how to be a good person, how to be a loving person, and you know how to be a spiritual person. And
Sure.
if I can put all that together, then maybe I can have a decent program. And so we changed to the Bullies Be Gone. I just got the idea of Bullies Be Gone Project about 10 years ago. I changed the
Okay.
name,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
love
broadened
that.
it a bit. Yeah.
Sure. But you and I guess what I was sort of alluding to is the fact that you have, I mean, you had lots of opportunities where you, I mean, you could have given up. You could have, because you were too this or not enough that. You know what I mean? Maybe you because you're black or because you weren't, whatever it was. But how did you? Obviously, you overcame all of those things. But how did you do that? I mean, and so when people are dealing with doubt and uncertainty, okay, about whatever it is, I would like to know what you did, what strategies you used to overcome those things, and what would you recommend that other people do to navigate through those periods of doubt and uncertainty?
Uh, what I developed is what I call, and we use it in the program. Myself and my wife Leslie's call the mental toughness.
Okay.
Mental toughness, and once you get the mental toughness, you start taking off in a different direction. When before I went to the university to start studying for the bachelor's degree, I went to a school, another JC out here in California, and the JC at that time was 99% white.
Okay. And what is JC?
Junior college,
Junior college. Got it.
community college, what you guys call it. We
Got it.
call it, and same, it's called community college now. And JC was called junior college.
Got it.
You know,
Okay. Cool. All right.
2 years school, 2 years
All right.
school.
All right.
Okay. And it was 99% white. So to answer your question, in that when I sat down in that class and I'd walk in a room, all of a sudden there was a flashback to when my segregated days, and I'm going, I wonder, am I as smart as they are?
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder, can I do, what all these white kids can do and young people? And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden going, you're better than they are. So just
That's
get yourself together
that's right. That's
and
right.
start studying.
Yeah.
And that's changed me with that belief of mental toughness and that I can do it.
Yeah.
No, I can do it.
Yeah.
I recommend to, and then I recommend to people who are having difficulty with doing with the process, is to somehow, and if necessary, and they have a certain area that they're interested in, or positive, get away from, first of all, get away from negative people and
Right.
negative environments and negative sources,
Yeah.
because all that's going to do is pull you down. You might think, this is my best friend over here. Your best friend might be selling drugs tomorrow on the corner.
Yeah.
That's not your best friend.
Sure.
You need to get to someone who's much more positive, and they're not going against biblical terms and
Yeah.
spiritual, and they're not going against the word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let
You
me
know,
ask this, going along that same line, that's making me think of, I mean, so you're overcoming doubt and uncertainty with mental toughness, but what about, I mean, does self-image have anything to do with that? I mean, how, and if it does, how do you help your students, I mean, the Bullies Be Gone people, to be able to um, cultivate a positive self-image? How does that work? And what have you done for yourself around that?
well, for students, we run a lot. We run through it a lot with self-image, because kids who are being bullied, they have a poor self-image.
Yeah, sure.
They're feeling like they're deficient in whatever area, in all areas. Unfortunately, some of the kids go to the extreme and actually take their lives.
It's
That type
horrible.
of, they just, yeah, it is horrible.
Yeah.
Um, what I do it is poetically. And when I say we, my wife Leslie is helping me to a great extent. And she came on board, and she's making the program even stronger now, because I don't have to do it all by myself.
Yeah, sure. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
Her input and everything. But first, you got to give them belief in themselves.
Okay.
Even now when I'm tutoring special students that don't believe in themselves,
Yeah.
I find a way, or try and find a way, to get them to start believing in themselves. Even, for instance, let's say I have a student who's in the ninth grade or the 10th grade
Okay.
or something like that. and they're doing they don't think they can do math or whatever, and they can't. They're not, or they can, but they're not doing it at the levels they should be.
Sure.
Many times, to build up the confidence, I'll give them elementary school stuff. I said, here's an assignment. Knock it out. If you have any problems with it, let me know, and so forth. So now they're doing the element, they're doing this, and then you sneak in a little bit higher,
Yeah.
and you do this, but it's building up
Their confidence.
the confidence, and that's the same thing. And that's a principle
Yeah.
of the martial arts too,
Okay.
because in the martial arts, what you're doing, Rudy, I have to, when the more I read the Bible,
Yeah.
and the more I understand about God's word and the Holy Spirit, and as I said, I'm still learning.
We all are. Sure. Yeah.
The more I see there's a connection between the martial arts and the belief in what we do,
Yeah.
and the Bible, the biblical belief. I said, love and happiness, and then
Right.
sharing things with others, and then believing in yourself, and
That's right.
then all those are positive things.
Yeah.
Uh, Not swearing and
Yeah.
fornication and all those other things. And so I teach children that, and that's what I had to learn myself,
Yeah.
because the inspiration, inspiration, motivation, and the desire wasn't originally there.
Yeah.
And for a lot of youngsters today, the inspiration, motivation, and desire for positive things and social skill are
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting what you said about the Bible and how we all have sort of a preconceived idea about, how God is going to speak to us and whether or not that's his voice and, the
Mhm.
scriptures and understanding the scriptures. And, it's interesting because Jesus taught the stories and examples that he used then were stories that they could relate to there. I mean, farming and fishing and I
Mhm.
often thought if Jesus was teaching today, what kind of examples would he be using? Would he be using whatever examples work? He would use martial arts. He would use iPhones and social media and say, "Hey, here's a story of a successful social media." I mean, so it's like the key, I believe. In fact, Jesus said this, Al, that he was comparing a smart contractor to a stupid contractor, and he basically said this, that the stupid contractor just listens to the Bible and doesn't apply it to his daily life, and a person that
Right.
does that is like it's like they're building a house on sand. But what you need to do is take the word of God out of the pages and out of the church, the building, and apply it to your everyday life, just like what you're doing, and use it to, I mean, tie it in with martial arts, tie it in with poetry, tie it in with songwriting. We didn't even talk about your songwriting yet. And then apply that so that you can understand it and use it every day, because otherwise it's of no use to you just sitting in the pages of a book. You got to take that and put it in your life, and that's what you've done. And that's what's so inspiring about that, is that like you said, a lot of people will start at whatever young age and do it, start from there, but you started later in life. And I think that's fantastic, man. But so I want to talk about the songs. I mean, we need to talk about this stuff. I mean, you do all this stuff. I mean, speaking of Renaissance man, that's what that's what we need
Thank
to
you.
call you. So how did the songwriting come into this? How does that play a part in what you're doing? And do you use that for the Bullies Be Gone project? I mean, how does that play?
Well, then again, that's God speaking in a certain way. My aunt and uncle who raised me, as I mentioned before,
No.
were also, my aunt played the piano, and
Okay.
she played it well. Her son, my cousin, I think that's right. He played the piano.
Yeah.
He, he
Get it
played the
together.
he played the piano also, and I mean he played anything, classical stuff,
Mm,
and whatever. He could play everything. So everybody in the family
yeah.
pretty much played the piano except me.
Okay.
And in many times we would stand around the piano and we'd sing gospel songs, and they'd play. And one day I was in high school, and my aunt says, "You have to start playing an instrument."
Oh, okay.
So you have to start playing piano. I didn't want to play piano because I thought piano was a girlish thing. You know how
Yeah.
we grow up thinking
Yeah,
thinking.
sure.
And so finally she says, I'm not I'm through trying to convince you to play piano if you don't want to do it. But I want you to consider playing some kind of instrument. Why don't you look at the band in the high school and see which instrument you'd like to play? And
Okay.
I'll pay for the lessons. So I have to tell your audience this. I played the trombone in high
Okay.
school in the band and orchestra. And I played it well, but I chose the trombone at that time for only one reason, because the trombones were on the first roll of the band, and the majorettes were immediately in.
Ah, okay. Okay. It was about girls. Okay. All
It was
right.
about a girl thing. It was a girl thing. So with that,
Yeah.
it wasn't until years and years later, I guess God says you have a purpose to put poetry down on paper. And when you put the poetry down, you have a purpose that can turn into music
Yeah.
and writing songs. And so it so happened that my cousin here in LA lived directly next to someone who had a music studio.
Oh, nice.
And so when I started trying to write songs, she's, because it was just horrible at first, of course, because
Sure.
you don't know how to do the craft.
Yeah.
Still learning how to do the craft. And so anyway, she said, I'm gonna introduce you guys. So she introduced us, and he says, well, come on down to the studio and let me see what you have.
Hmm.
Let me hear what you have and see what. So I was singing too at that time, like,
Yeah.
so because my parents had us singing too, and it was like the more that I said, wow, I can tell a story
Hmm.
with the song. And then I would hear how songs move people.
Yeah.
I said, this moved me. I was telling my wife, Leslie, is that there are certain songs that are sung in church that emotionally, and that's what music and poetry does. It
Yeah.
moves emotionally and with empathy, and it gets you more deeply involved. So the more that I wrote songs, pretty soon I'm going, wow, I've written a lot of songs here. And then I
Yeah.
keep writing and keep writing and keep writing. I was discussing with this same guy just last night. We were talking about a procedure that we need to do with our music to before we present it to the industry.
Yeah.
And and so it became a passion, just like the martial arts became a passion, and just like the poetry became a passion. It was like, okay. And then the music company that I'm affiliated with, they're the ones who asked me to come on as as a paid songwriter, but a songwriter that could submit
Yeah.
music to them to the industry, because they had heard some of my music, and
Nice.
they thought it was nice. They says, okay, we think you can write. We'll teach you even how to write better. I said, okay, let's do it.
Nice, nice. Well, that's fantastic. So before we wrap up, we talked about all kind of different subjects, and we could easily do a part 2 and 3 here because we didn't even cover half of what I know about you. But we've talked a few different scriptures back and forth here. If you had to name one scripture, one Bible promise that was, has been really instrumental in shaping your journey and helping you become the man, that you are, what would that be? I mean, even if it needs to be more than one, but at least one Bible promise that is really, the main one for you.
I don't know if it's a promise or if it's uh, an inspiration, but there are Bible verses that stick with you,
Yeah.
and you never forget them.
Yeah.
And the one that has stuck with me from a child is John 3:16.
Hmm.
If God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, whosoever believe in him shall have eternal life. That
Yeah. Yeah.
I have never that comes to my mind. I'm going, okay, how do I interpret that in what you're talking about? How do I interpret that with the promise? And so God promised what? And then what was Jesus doing, and when he gave his life,
Yeah.
and he was trying to what? Give it have for our sins is what he was doing it for,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
know, and I'm going, all that kind of meshes together. And maybe that's so that particular John 3:16 has always been that important to me. And I was telling my wife Leslie, and I tell the pastor, I'm learning more because I want to learn more scriptures
Yeah.
where I can interpret them and know what they're saying and get deeper and delve deeper into it. But that's the one that stands out for me now. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that totally answers your question.
Oh, totally. It does. It does. Yeah. Well, listen, I have kept you way longer than I intended to, but I've enjoyed talking with you. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me, and I'm sure that the audience got a lot of value out of what you had to say. And do you have any last thoughts, any closing comments that you want to throw out before we close up here?
My closing comments are Rudy. If number one, thank you for the invite
Absolutely.
to your podcast.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure,
Thank you,
and
sir.
I'm sharing the information and then getting the input from you, because I learned something from you today about the Bible and
Yeah.
things of that nature. So when you're talking about Joseph and so forth, so I'm always trying to learn,
Sure.
and even if I'm the guest, I want to learn from the host. So
Right.
okay, and to make it worthwhile. So I'm glad that you think it's worthwhile. It was a pleasure. And if you want to invite me back, no problem. I'll come in a hurry.
Sounds good. Well, then we'll wrap it up there. Thanks again, Al, for your time, sir. And I'm sure we'll talk again here real soon. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
You take
All right.
care.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Hey, thanks again for tuning in today. And until next time, stay aligned with God's promises and empowered by His word. We'll see you next time.